Welcome back to RNG. Today, we're doing our gaming opinion / hot takes part 2.
/ wrong takes.
/ wrong takes, definitely all wrong.
I definitely could be. We're just having conversational fun here.
It's just good thought experiments, we'll call it that, so it sounds good. Just like last time, our opinions on gaming-related topics, and we're going to discuss them, see if the other person agrees or not, and have a little discussion. I remember last time there was one we just agreed on. We're like, yep, that's just true. We just didn't talk about it.
Right.
But yeah, I'll get it kicked off.
You want to start? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The first one I have is that big AAA studios feel like they are producing products and not games in more and more frequently in recent years. An example of that, I would say, honestly, like Spider-Man 2 feels like a product in some ways than a game. Like, it's still a game, and I still think the developers enjoy making the games, but it's like some games have way more like marketing to them, and like in a way that like all games like have marketing, but like sometimes it feels like they're just making a product they want people to buy versus like a game that has been in the oven and is like not by choice, say, like the developers. Like, I know most game developers probably want more time, but it feel like the classic story is the big wigs at the top just want to get this out by this deadline to please investors.
Right.
And I find myself kind of feeling like some games that feel rushed suffer from that. And there's also games that feel like they've been even from AAA studios that have been in the oven longer, that you can tell there was like more love put into it than just being a product that needs to be sold.
I would agree on principle on the fact that games are becoming like there more and more of them are in the market, so you have a higher percentage chance or percentage chance that they'll be considered quote products versus games. I don't necessarily think that developers are like, hey, we're going to make this, like, they don't put any care into it.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that. I feel like I said, I think it's more at the top of the chain of big companies I'm talking that are like, yeah, we should do this because then we can either merchandise it or profit off other aspects of it. Like, you know, and that's another thing too of my point is like a lot of games have like expanded merchandising stuff too, and it's like almost like more and more it's like, this game could be really good if it was like another year of just development time.
Right.
And I don't think that's at the fault of the developers.
No. But I feel like some games feel more like a product. Like I mean, maybe one of the examples would be like, I think Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League could have been better handled than the way it was. But I also don't necessarily feel like it's like flooding the market. Like the percentage of games are more on the product side than the game side. You know what I mean?
That's fair. And a lot of this spark comes from something that's been talked about a lot, but with Concord. The people at the top, I don't know if you heard, they literally were in interviews saying, like, this is going to be the next Star Wars. Like, we've already got shows planned and this and that. And it's like, they're obviously just wanting to make a product. Like, they want a product to sell.
And that's a fair...
And that's a fair example. That's an extreme example that obviously failed horribly.
Right.
And I think there's traces of some of that in other games.
Right.
Not to the extent of how baffling that one was.
Right.
But I think sometimes I see a game and I see a trailer and I'm like, it either looks like it's chasing a trend or it's like, oh, that's a cool idea, but like
maybe not fleshed out enough or not like, taking enough time on it.
Or they are trying to tie in like, you know, I mean, I hate to just keep beating a dead horse or like a skeleton horse at this point, but like there's a secret level show from Amazon and it already has a Concord. Like, it will have a Concord episode air.
Right.
That's not even a game that exists anymore. Like, you can't buy it. It doesn't exist. The studio got shut down.
Right.
So I don't know. That's like one thing. It's like, I think that's a glaring example of it, but obviously I think, I don't know, like I should say in the AAA sphere, I feel like I see that tendency a little bit more. like same with like the newest Modern Warfare games. Like Modern Warfare 3 was a product.
Yeah.
That didn't feel like a game that had enough time from the developers to put their love and soul into it.
Right. Well, I feel like
just a product.
Yeah, and I feel like that. I mean, when you have those games that are like or like made yearly, that's like you get to that point where it's like there's just not enough time to keep making it as the like better and better and better.
With the recent release of Black Ops 6, like I've been playing that a lot.
Yeah, they took time on it, and it's really good.
A lot of time on it, and it's really good. And it's fun, and there's a lot more customization and challenges, and like all the fun stuff and like prestige is back.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like it's just a product to keep selling into the like. It's still a product. I mean,
all games are products. Yeah.
But like, you can tell there's a lot of quality of life, and the game runs really well, and the servers run well. There's not a ton of like the spawn issues. There's still some, but like.
I just heard the maps were bad.
I really like the maps. They're all like smaller, but they're like intricate.
Okay, I haven't bought it yet.
The time to kill isn't as fast as Modern Warfare. Like,
gotcha.
I like it so far. I didn't play any MW3. I heard the campaign was like basically just big open fields.
Yeah, and it was like 3 hours. Of, yeah.
I don't know, like just stuff like that. When I hear all those bad things, I don't know. That's where most of that comes from.
Right. I mean, I'm only going to disagree because I think there's still a higher percentage of games that are the love that they get the love they deserve, and the games that you would consider a quote unquote product are ones that either don't sell well or aren't on the market anymore. And I feel like that's where kind of the market is. So that's like I get what you're saying, and there's definitely examples of it. But I think the overarching market as a whole, I would say, I would slightly be on the disagreement side.
I would say it's like still a minority, but it's like there's stuff
but
that
it's
just
alarming.
keeps trending, and it's like we shouldn't be going.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah,
and then there's good examples. Like I said, Black Ops 6 is very good in my opinion so far as of playing it, and there's a lot of small things that they add, and it's very stable comparatively to like I played a little bit of MW2, and that game was like okay, but it just felt like MW1 again.
Right.
I don't know, but. Yeah, that's
fair.
Yeah. What's your hot take?
I don't think this is a hot take. I just think it'd be freaking sweet. A standalone rated M Venom game is needed.
Yes.
After playing as Venom in Spider-Man 2, they took my little toesies and they gave him a little, and I.
Something licks toes.
I just think a rated M Venom game, or even if it's rated T, whatever. But like just a Venom game itself would be sweet. I still believe that Spider-Man 2 had either the best or maybe the second best like artistic design for Venom.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And like the voice, it was just it was great.
We need more
him in the Kraven fight, like that. Playing as Venom in that game was so fun.
I jumped up and I FaceTimed you, and I was like, I can't, because I think you were just behind me.
I was like so close.
You were right. I was like, where are you at? And you're like, here, which is like a mission before.
Yep.
And I was like, you'll know. Just tell me when you get there. Because I remember telling you, I was like, I bet we'll get to play as Venom, and you're like, I don't know. And then I was like, I bet we will. And I'm like, oh, dude. And the way it fakes you out thinking it's going to be a boss fight, and then he gets just slammed to the side, and then it's like, oh, it's going to be a cutscene, he's going to rampage out. No, you're playing
as Venom. Yeah.
And dude, his finishers, like one of them,
they were sweet.
Snaps the guy's back over his head. Like, I can't believe what they got away with in a T game.
No. Or like, you just, like when at the end of the Kraven fight, when you just like picks him up and
and there's blood. It's like, whoa, dude, that's crazy.
Oh my, it was so fun. So that's my opinion is we need a rated M or just a Venom game.
Yeah, no, I'm on board. My next one is that in recent years, there have been more and more of games putting out patches, like multiplayer games like Helldivers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a patch, and it's a PvE game, right, that like nerfed it. All it did was like nerf the player.
Yep.
And people review bombed the game, just gave it terrible ratings.
Yep.
And I think that it is effective, but I wish it didn't have to happen. Because like it gets the attention, like I'm pretty sure they like made new patches that changed stuff again, and I think it sucks because Helldivers, like I had such a fun time with it, like I don't play it anymore, but it's a fun game. But it's like fun. That review bombing will stick. Like that game is I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure right now it's still mixed reviewed because of all the lingering bad reviews that it had.
Yep.
But it was like very positive at launch because it was so great, and that's how you get the attention of the studio and the higher ups to be like, okay, like we can't have this because that speaks. But like my opinion's more on like I think it's effective and it's worked. And there was like Warhammer had a patch too where it did a similar thing, like 40K, like Space Marine 2.
Yep.
And they've review bombed it, and then they reverted some stuff, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know, it's effective obviously because it makes stuff change, but like I just wish it didn't have to happen. Like I wish there was, I don't know, like I guess my opinion is that it's effective. It's like a
review bombing.
Like I would say I understand it. Like some people would say like they, it's bad in general to do that because it
review bomb
reviews poorly on the developers. Like if someone's like on the store and they go to the page and they're like, oh, this game's like reviewed.
Yeah.
Like even if they don't know anything about it, they'll just see the reviews and be like, oh, it's like mixed to negative.
Right.
But they don't know the story of like, oh, it's because of this patch.
Yeah, I agree. I wish it didn't have to happen. I also I think it depends on the type of game too, because with something like Helldivers or Space Marine, like it's PvE, it's not PvP. So like you might as well make the players just like uber powerful,
exactly.
and then just like scale the enemies accordingly. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? You can make the enemies a little bit harder maybe, or like change their resistances maybe, but like to nerf the player in a PvE. Exactly. I feel like it's kind of like you're going there to get the power, like
it's a co-op game where you're having just fun being like a power, not like a power trip, but like
But I mean, it's kind of like a power trip.
And especially in that game where it's just like hordes and hordes of enemies that are bullet sponges and some of them fall over quick, and it's like, why like just nerf the player? Like, it's not like people were like just finding it too easy. Like it's a hard game. Like, it's hard. Like so
it was fun, but I agree with that.
I guess I would agree that it is effective, but I
just wish it didn't have to happen.
I just wish it didn't have to happen.
Right, and I can agree with that. Yeah. I kind of want to piggyback here off of that Spider-Man comment. I'm going to skip this number 2 that I have, but for now, I'm going to say Spider-Man 2018 had a better story than Spider-Man 2. And I would say, thinking back on the emotional pulls that the first story had, I think it hit closer to home than Spider-Man 2's story did, and I think it was better put together, more cohesive, and I just think ultimately it was a better story.
That's fair.
This is not going to get taken out of context. I still enjoyed Spider-Man 2. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying I think 2018 had a better story.
It's a lot better paced, for sure. I think the first story is a lot better paced. Like, they followed the same structure of, like, the box villain was, which is weird because the box villain of 1 was Mr. Negative, and then it ended up being Doc Ock, and there was, like, no promotion for it. But in this game, and we've talked about it before a little bit, where the promotion was all about Venom.
Right.
And Kraven, we knew, was, like, he was in one of the first, like, gameplay reveals. Right. But it's, like, with a character like Venom, like, I wish, like, I like that Kraven was in the game because he was cool, and
he was sweet.
He was awesome, but I wish, I don't know, it felt like it would have been cooler if potentially, like, the only villain was Venom.
Yeah.
Like, I get why it was a story device for Venom to happen, like with Peter getting the symbiote and stuff. But I don't know, like, yeah, I think the story overall, like, I still I got very emotional at the end of 1, like when spoilers, Aunt May dies.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think about
everything throughout with his struggle with Dr. Octavius.
Yep.
A lot more relatable, just like hits home. It's a lot more like, it's kind of the whole thing with like Marvel movies too. It's like more city street level versus like Venom is a space alien.
Right. And that could,
and not to say that you can't make a good story out of that, but it was like, yeah, more relatable with the characters, and the characters had like better stakes, and I don't know, like, and in Spider-Man 2, I just wanted to see more Venom. So I was waiting the whole game to see more Venom. So I couldn't really appreciate Kraven as much because I like knew Venom was in it.
Right. Well, and Kraven wasn't in it for the whole game either. I mean, he was in it for most of it, but
yeah. But no, I would agree. I think I like 16's 18's story better, and I think I guess this is kind of off topic, but I like the gameplay in 2 was super fun.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Overall, but I think 1's gameplay, I've gone back and played it, and it's like I keep saying 16, but in 18 is like still good.
Yeah.
But it's like,
oh no, I agree with that.
But it's like, then you play like Miles Morales, and the gameplay in Miles Morales, like, albeit the story is like not as good as either of the other games, but in my opinion, the gameplay was like way more fun with all his Venom powers.
Yeah, it really was.
And then they gave Peter the sauce with the symbiote in the second game, and then it was like, all right.
And then it was like, gameplay good now.
Yeah.
I meant just from, like I said, the story specifically. So
no, I'd agree. This next opinion is kind of tied to that, where I think AAA big games take too long to make because some studios are going for hyper real versus stylized. And I think sometimes, from my very vast knowledge of game design, I don't know, like, I don't care if my Spider-Man game looks like real people.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be still graphically impressive and stylized,
Mm-hmm.
and take a year less and be easier to develop in and not take as long, like, graphically to develop,
Yeah.
I'd prefer that.
Yeah, I agree that if I do agree with that if if you're choosing between spending an extra 2 years on graphics versus spending an extra 2 years on actually developing a good story with a good combat system, with a good, like, progression system, et cetera, I feel like I would rather have the extended time be spent on those aspects than just the graphics.
Yeah.
Graphics are important.
And
they definitely are, and they're impressive, but I would trade off a little bit on the graphics department for stability, mechanics, bug-free game, that all that stuff.
Because going back and playing games, I think it hurts games in the long run that do come out and they're a little weaker on the mechanical side, because you go back and play them and it's like graphics are always getting better.
Right.
So it's like, not to say, like, we keep talking about Spider-Man, but not to say Spider-Man 2018's original graphics were bad. They were good.
Right.
And they held up. But if you think about games, say, like, I don't know, like Doom 16 and Eternal, like, they're all stylized. Like, they are realistic, but it's like...
Right. It's a stylized
thing. I think any game that doesn't have human faces and people in it holds on, like, longer, because, like, think like Dead Space. Like, even the old Dead Space games, all the people look like potatoes, kind of, because, like, just the...
Right.
It's just the...
Different time.
But all the aliens hold up well, because it's not a... We all know what real people look... We all know what real people look like, but that... like, those degrade faster. Like, same with, like, the old Halo games. Like, all the aliens look sweet. Then, like, the people look like potatoes.
It's fair. But I think there's a point, too, where it's like, I mean, if you took it... I don't know how, you'd go from looking at, like, I'll just say, Spider-Man or God of War or Last of Us. Like, I don't see a time where you would go back and look at those games that have come out, like, like I said, Ragnarok or The Last of Us Part 2 remake or The Last of Us remake, or even, and look at them and say that those look like potatoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no. And I think even, like, and that's where the balance comes in. Like, you can still have a very realistic game with sound mechanics. It's just how long it's in the oven. Like, the original Last of Us ran well mechanically, still holds up. Like, the graphics still look good on the PS3 release.
Right. Yep.
I'm just saying more like,
like, there comes a point where
what they're prioritizing. Like, I wish they would prioritize the actual game itself. And I think sometimes that could even, I don't know, lead to, like, quicker lead times on actually developing, because they're not, like, mocapping and making stuff look realistic takes more time than, like, a stylized look.
Yeah.
In my eyes, at least, and I could be wrong, but I mean, if you're trying to make stuff look really real, it just is. It
takes time.
Work versus, like, a stylized game that's, like, your own style, and you can make it look as real or as cartoony as you want.
I mean, I will say, I would rather, like, if you're like, hey, you can have this game in 3 years with the stylized art and fantastic, gameplay and everything else, or you can have it in 5 years with realistic art and graphics, and also, 98% of what the gameplay would have been if we released it in 3 years. I'd probably still wait the 5 years, because I mean, if there is no trade-off, obviously I want the best graphics.
Right, if there's no trade-off, but yeah, no. And then, like, another game example would be, like, Breath of the Wild. Like, that's another example. I'd be like, hey, the people, like, they're all a stylized Zelda look. Like, they're not trying to look real.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of stuff is, like, long term. Someone might be like, oh yeah, I'll pick that up. I haven't gotten it yet. It's like, oh, it's like 8 years old, whatever. It looks stylized. Versus, like, say, like, an early, late PS4 title that tried to look realistic is like, oh, it like kind of looks janky because it looks trying to look real.
Right.
But yeah.
Did I agree or disagree with that?
I don't know.
What was your opinion?
Wait, what did you say? Aquadian?
What was your opinion?
That I think that I'd prefer games to be more stylized than hyper realistic if it leads to shorter dev cycles, essentially.
And still
but mechanics.
And still good mechanics. Okay, I would agree. I agree with that then. Yeah, if it leads to shorter dev cycles, and depending on the game too, like
right, and some games fit it more. Like
right, like honestly, I'm not gonna say they should mocap Breath of the Wild or something. Like,
yeah, no, exactly.
But like, I also do think it'd be kind of interesting or kind of weird to have a God of War game that's not. And that's realistic, not right. to an extent, not realistic.
Well,
you know
and I feel
mean?
like the old games were more stylized than realistic,
and they still look good.
And they do, and I think in the newer ones, obviously, they made it more like real and like and you also connect. I think in a story-based game where you're trying to get emotion, you connect more with realistic people.
And that makes sense.
So like, but anyways, what's your next opinion?
Okay, this one's gonna make me sound like a little bitch. So I played them about 3/4 of the way through Black Myth Wukong. Love that game. It's fantastic. I love it. It has made me realize that I am a little goblin, and I need like a completion tracker of some sorts. Say like Elden Ring. I felt it's the same with that too. Like these games, they don't even have to be like open world, but like if there's no like, hey, I don't need it to be a fetch quest, but just like an objective marker of like everything that's been completed.
Yeah.
Like otherwise I get overwhelmed. And like I just like, so for example, like Ragnarok or God of War 2018.
Yeah.
I wouldn't describe them necessarily as fetch quests, but if you go to the map, there's an outline of things that you have to accomplish in that area to get 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't need a fetch quest of go here, do this, do that, do that.
You just know it's in the area.
I just want to know what's in the area so that I know that I've cleared the area on my path to 100% the game.
Yeah.
And like Black Myth, again, I love that game.
but it's made me realize that I'm a little pansy, and I want that like map that says, hey, you've got this and this left to do. Even if it says undiscovered, like that's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to know the total amount of things to do in an area.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it works for different games better. Like I think it makes sense in like God of War, for example. But I do like there's something about like you brought up Elden Ring too, where it's like you don't know what's out there, and when you stumble across something, especially in a game like Elden Ring, where I'm like, I know I'll never, like, no one 100%'s that game because it's just massive and there's so much in it. But like, yeah, I wouldn't disagree. That I think I would at least say like some games I think could use it. Games that are about the like exploration and adventure, maybe even if they unlock it post game, so you know where things are.
Like it can even just say undiscovered. Like it doesn't have to say like you need to do this thing, and this thing. Just like even if it says undiscovered, I just want an outline of like everything that like needs to be accomplished.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it doesn't just like the quantity.
Yeah.
Like,
I think for smaller story based, not smaller necessarily, but like God of War, for example, makes sense because there's like zones and it's like, okay, yeah, this is what I need to get. Or even if you don't know what it is, it says undiscovered.
Right.
But yeah, I think like in like Elden Ring, for example, I would disagree because part of it is like
once you that was
like Radahn,
tough example.
No, I know, but it's one I'll pivot off of to prove you wrong.
No, you're right. It's fair.
I think it's like when you beat Radahn, for example, and then all those like new caves and stuff open up, and you see like little spots on the map, and you're like, oh, what's that? Like that wasn't on there before.
Right.
Then you just go over there and explore it, but it doesn't like show you like these are the 10 spots where Radahn stars fell or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Well, and even like yeah. Well, like it doesn't have to be that specific.
Right.
Just like opening up like again, like an undiscovered on this area type thing, or like when I go into the map, oh hey, something opened up over there. You know what I mean? Like I could still like do the adventure aspect of it and go find it, but like
I think there's a good middle ground because there were plenty of times in Elden Ring where I had to look stuff up because it's like I need this thing or I need it. Where do I find this?
Yeah, right.
And it's like that's also just a time thing. It's like I could just spend
an hour,
and
2 hours,
I could spend an hour, but then I get sidetracked. So I'd find something else,
right? Which is good, probably. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Thing, but it's just like it's like, okay, yeah, I could do that, or I'd get sidetracked, and then it's like, well, I just need to do this so I can get this thing. It's like, okay.
Right.
But no, yeah, I guess I overall
somewhat degree.
Degree.
Degree. Degree.
Depends on the game. This is kind of not tied to anything we've talked about yet, but recently when I was in a lull of games, I was just going back and getting trophies for games I haven't gotten platinum on.
Okay.
And in Doom 2016, there are like 20 trophies assigned to multiplayer.
Jeez.
And I think that multiplayer-based trophies sound like a good idea for games, say like COD. It makes sense. There's going to be players for years and years.
Right.
If your trophy is required to get through multiplayer means, there should be a way for the developer to say, hey, this game's like almost 10 years old.
Right.
No one plays it anymore. Just give everyone the trophies that are multiplayer based.
Right.
Because otherwise it's like there is some very hyper specific like kill 2 people with this demon in multiplayer. And it's like, I don't want to spend 6 hours just waiting around. Maybe I'll get the demon this game. Maybe I won't.
Right. And lobbies take forever to get into.
Exactly. And then it's like just uber sweats because they're the only ones playing the game still that are on multiplayer. So I don't know. Like, or if it would have to be something I think dictated by the developer to push out because you wouldn't want it just as a trigger. Anyone can just be like, oh yeah, I completed this.
I mean, I agree. I think maybe I agree. Maybe instead of giving them completion, they'll just make them so they don't count towards the platinum.
That's what I was going to say too. Or if they do have multiplayer trophies, make them separate from platinum.
Yeah. I agree.
Unless it's obviously a multiplayer game, but like single player games with multiplayer aspects should be excluded from platinum. Because
I agree.
I can't platinum Doom 2016 until I spend like 10 hours in multiplayer.
Right.
And that's being generous. Who knows how long it will actually take me.
Right. No, I agree with that. At least have them, like I said, be not a part of the platinum, or have like I don't know, have them under a separate category for like, you know, I would. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah. Especially when it has like a single player emphasis. I agree.
And that's like exclusively for single player games with multiplayer, and that I think COD is like a multiplayer game. Like they make good campaigns here and there, like, but most of the time people are just playing multiplayer zombies, for example. If it's like a zombies game.
Yep.
Anything that requires you to play online, basically, I feel like, unless it's like the game is a multiplayer game,
right?
I feel like trophies should be excluded from platinum.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, all right.
I agree with that.
Easy agree.
All right. Ironwood in Ragnarok was not as bad as everybody says. It was. It was imperative to the development of Atreus' character, and the ending scene where he transforms into the wolf and he races Angrboda on her little mutated chicken. I don't know, it was a fox or whatever. Was gorgeous, and it was awesome. And I don't think the boss fight with her aunt was or grandma was terrible. I didn't think that section was as bad as everybody says. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. But I don't think it was as bad.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because everybody's like personal reviews that I saw or read always just shit on Ironwood, and that's fine. Again, I get what they're coming from, but also like I didn't mind it.
I didn't really watch too many reviews, but I didn't know that people had that strong of opinion over it being bad. Like the only Atreus section I didn't like. So I'm agreeing with you, but to tie into that is like the part where you're just climbing up the wall, like to Valheim or Valhalla.
Oh yeah.
To Valhalla, yeah.
No. Try again.
Asgard. That part, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's like his journey climbing up the wall. He's very introspective, but it's like, God, just get it over with.
That's
like,
fair.
This wall.
That's fair.
Half of it could have been a cutscene of him climbing it up as like a wolf or something. Like I don't know.
Right.
But anyways, I agree with pretty much everything you're saying about it. And
yeah, and I mean,
I liked the giant boss fight. It was fun.
Yeah.
It's not one. It's very different. All of Kratos' boss fights, he kills the thing.
Right.
Usually.
Yep.
And Atreus is like his was just survive.
Right.
Distract it and hurt her enough so that she would fuck off.
Right.
Not hurt them anymore.
Yeah. So. And I think like everybody from what I saw, people were saying, it was boring. It was the walking simulator. It was
kind of a walking simulator, but there was a lot of story to it and lore to it. And
right.
It was, like you said, it's necessary for his character development and why he makes his choices at the end of the game. Like he knows he's there's more to him. Than
Right,
just being
right.
with
And I
being-
get it.
Being boy.
Yes, yeah, and I get it too. You know, if you want to make the argument that you can have a good gameplay section with not a walking simulator with story in it, and I get it. I do get it. But
The only part in that
I thought it
sticks
was
out
good.
to me was like when you're just riding around on that like
Ox.
thing and picking stuff. Like I get here's the thing. It could have been a 20-minute cutscene of them just talking, and that would have been really a drag. So like at least you're doing something and you're hearing all the story. And it's like they probably just had a tough time figuring out how to do that with Atreus, because in the normal game, it's like when you're riding on the sled doing another objective, there's story.
And
or in the boat in the first game.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think they did what they could with it.
Woo.
Am I on my last one here?
I think you have two more. I have one. No, did you?
No, this will be my last.
This is your last one. Yeah.
This one's kind of just a broad thing, but I feel, and this is kind of just like pop culturally related, but I feel like games either become mainstays or just go completely irrelevant. And like, that's kind of just an observation. It's not really an opinion, I guess, but it's like, I wish there was like newer IPs that could stay and have staying power.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like games, I don't know, like if you just go to like Walmart or Best Buy and like look at the games aisle, you're like, oh, I forgot that game even came out.
Yeah.
And it came out like 3 months ago.
Right.
And I don't know, it's more of just, I don't even think there's anything to agree. This is the one this is going to get cut out. This is the one I was like mid on, but I was like, it's basically just like, I don't know, like I guess it would kind of boil down to like the gaming market is just very saturated.
Yeah. I mean, I'd agree with that. I think there's plenty. I think it's easier than ever to make games, and more people can make games, and it's just that's a victim of it is when you have so much more. The percentage chance that you'll have ones that get forgotten definitely go up, and that's a risk that you have to take. And I think the standards are also higher than ever.
Yeah, no,
So
for sure. Like, I guess like when I
maybe
look
not
back
higher
at
than
like,
ever, but I just think standards are high.
Yeah, when I look back at like, oh yeah, like I had all these games for the PS2, and and it could be childhood nostalgia and like just very formative gaming memories, but it's like, yeah, I remember that game, and then sometimes I go through my trophies list and I was like, I played that game, like I don't even remember.
Right.
And it's like,
I turned that on. Yeah,
and it's, I don't know, it's kind of just a thing of like maybe that's kind of the idea of it is like I wish. I don't know, like it's probably just a saturation thing. Like there just seems like, oh yeah, this game looks fun and cool, and then it ends up being kind of generic, and you maybe play through it,
right?
And then it like just sits and you forget about it. Like, do you remember Deathloop? Deathloop? Yeah. That was like a highly rated game. I couldn't get into it. I forgot I had it in my cupboard. And then I like tried playing it again. I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I forgot about it.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's like I thought it was kind of mid, but
no, that's fair. Yeah, no, I agree. I do agree with that. I tried playing Deathloop too, and it was I couldn't get into it. Nothing. I mean, I'm sure
it's fine.
It's well, I'm sure if you like those like it, you really like it, and all the reviewing outlets gave it such high scores. It was just one that I couldn't
very strange.
Couldn't get into, but no, I mean I'd agree with that.
Yeah. What's your last one, Isaac?
This one, excluding like the original like Super Mario Bros. For like the SNES, and that Mario Galaxy is the best Mario game.
Okay, and you mean out of like the 3D games?
I mean like pretty much basically out of the 3D games. Yes, like Super Mario 64, Odyssey, and Galaxy 2, and then Sunshine.
And you're like also probably roping in like the 2D games like Wonder and stuff.
Yeah, Wonder.
Like main titles.
Yeah, main title Mario parties that really aren't including like Super Mario Bros.
Yeah.
I think Galaxy is the best because the soundtrack is amazing, the level design is immaculate, the gameplay is so fun. This is on the tip of my mind because I played through the 64 or not the 64, but the Super Mario All-Stars for the Switch. And I got the 120 stars in Galaxy, and I think the difficulty's good. I think the boss fights are fun. I just think it's the best Mario game that we've gotten that's 3D. And there might be a little basis or a little nostalgia,
bias and nostalgia,
maybe a little bit of, but like to me, looking back on it, I thought they did so well.
that's fair. I think as a package, like, I think because like I didn't play Sunshine, so I don't have any nostalgia for that.
I did play Sunshine, but
yeah, 64 is good, but it's just like it's got a lot of old jank, so it's like funny, but it's like good.
yeah.
But I would say, I guess for games that have left an imprint on me, like I played Galaxy and Galaxy 2, and I was like younger on the Wii, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think I would like fully disagree. Like, I probably don't like disagree because really the only other competition in my mind is like excluding like all of the like, well, 64 was a pioneer for 3D game, like
Right.
3D platformers, and that's fine. But if you just play it as a game and ignore all that,
Yeah.
64 is still good. I don't have the buy a 64 because I didn't have a 64, so
Mhm.
I only played it at like my cousins and stuff. But I would say like its only competition to me is Odyssey, and Odyssey is really fun. But like Galaxy, just you hear the soundtrack. Like I hear the soundtrack, it still just brings me like
I can still like
nostalgia and-
think about the soundtrack right
yeah,
now and
and I
think
can
about the
remember
songs.
vivid bosses
Yeah.
from like
Oh yeah,
Galaxy and Galaxy 2. But
Poltergeist.
other than I watch people play Odyssey like Kaizo runs and stuff still. So like those bosses are recent in my head. But I still, if I hadn't done that, I probably couldn't name you half the bosses in Odyssey. Like
I just think Odyssey. Now I think because of I think Odyssey's just a little bloated. In the sense of like,
no, that's a hot take.
well, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think
Yeah.
there's like, I just think it's just a little bloated in comparison to like the other.
I think
and
it's
the other
like
Mario-
'cause there are
Mario
so
games.
many moons.
Yeah.
It's like, you're in like in a Galaxy, you get to star the level ends, whatever, right?
Right.
Or like
Yep.
and then it unlocks a new section when
Yeah.
you choose the new star or whatever.
Or like
And
there's
then, like-
secret stars in Galaxy
Right.
too, or I mean, like not Galaxy, the number
Yeah.
2, but Galaxy as
Yeah.
well. And
And Odyssey obviously has like 20, 30 moons per place, and
Right.
some of them are just literally like sitting there, you just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
to it. It's like I get it, but yeah, no, I guess I probably wouldn't disagree. I'd say Galaxy is probably the best 3D Mario game, but like I don't know, Wonder. If I were to talk about 2D, Wonder was very good, but I still think Galaxy is just very. Nintendo like does weird stuff sometimes, but Galaxy was I feel like a big risk as far as 3D Mario because like it's like all space, and
right.
the only gripe with Galaxy I have is the motion controls and like the point and the
Yeah.
drag, like those blue bubble
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the hard levels
Yeah.
with like where you have to grab onto the blue bubbles.
Yep. And like you're going through the electric fields with like. Yep.
Yes, those are the only sections that are like it's kind of how like motion controls are now,
Yeah.
where people are like, motion controls like.
Yep.
But yeah, no, but that was like the Wii's whole gimmick, so I get it.
Right.
But, yeah, no, I guess I don't fully disagree, but
Interesting.
well.
Oh. That was
Uh,
another. I suppose it was. You're done, right?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Well, that was another list of our gaming thoughts / opinions / thoughts.
/ hot takes / thoughts.
Maybe not so hot this time, but
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna get flamed for half of mine. That's okay. I get it.
Yeah,
There's my
we'll
opinion.
Take it with stride.
There's
So,
my opinion. So,
Well,
but thanks for tuning in. We
if you
will.
wanna see more, leave a like, subscribe. We have a TikTok too. We haven't really mentioned that. We do have a TikTok. If this part's on TikTok, we have a YouTube. We'll do it both ways. So if you want to see more, go to those things.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
We'll
so
see you next time.
thanks again.